Greetings, everyone. This is your boy, Sam Oram, coming to you with another episode of the Deep Dive Podcast. I'm so excited today to have an opportunity to share with you some interesting information, but I have a powerful guest that's really going to expand your mindset today. I can't wait until you get a chance to hear from this guy. But like we always do, I want to start this podcast off with a word for the day. And the word today is focus. The word is focus. You think about this, what focus basically means is you create a task, or you have a task, and you just maintain the ability to stay on that task until it is actually done. You know, one thing that I can tell you, and I can tell you unequivocally, that focus is important from a standpoint of your mind can only occupy one thought at a time. So think about that. A lot of times people are depressed, and I say this, outside of being medically depressed, I say this and I say it respectfully, but if you're depressed, it's because you want to be depressed. You know why? Because your mind can only occupy one thought at a time. Think about that. You know, if you want to change your energy, if you want to change your mindset, if you want to change your focus, that key word, then change how you think. If you understand that the mind can only occupy one thought at a time, then change your mindset from something depressing to something happy. If you ever want to test this for yourself, just try to count to 10 and say your name at the same time. As I said in a previous podcast, I dare you. I dare you to say your name and count to 10 at the same time. Here's what's going to happen. Either you're going to stop counting to say your name, or if you continue to say your name, you won't have the ability to count. What that tells you is that mind can only occupy one thought at a time. So when we're looking at how to focus, okay, when we're looking at that clarity, that's all about a mindset. That's about creating that task and then continuing to pursue everything you need to do to fulfill that task before you deviate to something else. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, wanted to share that word with you. And one of the reasons I wanted to do that is because of our guest today. This is a guy that, man, I have so much respect for. As a matter of fact, I've known him a very long time. You know, this is one of my boys, if you will. And even though he's one of my boys, he has become one of the most incredibly successful mindset coaches and mentors that I know. He is a wealth of knowledge, and you'll get a chance to hear all of the information and all of the knowledge that he has. But, you know, when we started the Deep Dive podcast, this is one of the guys that was actually on my list to be able to converse with, because I know what he's going to bring to the table. He has so much to offer to so many people, and I'll let him tell his story and just share with you. But he is an incredible person. I definitely want you to get a chance to hear from him. And here's the interesting thing. You know, we've had an opportunity to converse a little bit prior to this podcast, and, you know, the future is so bright for this guy. He's going to be sharing so many things with people around the world. And I wanted to bring that word focus because he's going to talk about some things, and it surrounds and it is related to being focused on who you are, what you do, and where you're going. So without any further delay, I certainly want to introduce to the world my boy, my friend, but more importantly, a powerful motivational speaker and mindset coach, none other than Mr. Tyson Rudd. Tyson, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, bro. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be mentioned amongst the greats, yourself and so many others. I really appreciate this opportunity and being able to introduce, you know, not only myself to the world, but the people who really need to hear, you know, what they need to hear for the focus of life, the distractions of the world, the COVID-19 and all the different things that are going on that, you know, can keep us from, you know, our goals and dreams. And you know, I'm just excited to be able to share with the people today. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's a great honor.
Hey, it's absolutely all of our pleasure, and the world will get a chance to see why it's our pleasure soon. You know, but before we get into the details of the podcast today, I got to say that, you know, this is a full circle moment for me, because most of my podcast guests, these are people who I may have had business relationships with or met around the world, or they have, contacted me, whatever the case may be. But this particular guy, this is like my little brother. You know, we've been in the trenches for many years. As a matter of fact, He was little brother Tyson years ago, beat him up in the field. I'm just kidding. He beat us up. But little brother Tyson so many years ago, and to see, what he has become over the years, how he is now a family man. He has his own family and, doing great things and great works with so many people. And, again, it's an honor, but it's also a pleasure because of our relationship for so many years. But what's been going on with you lately, Tyson? How have things been going? I know what's happening, but tell the world what's going on with Mr. Tyson Rudd.
Well, just trying to navigate the web out here, that we weave. Just trying to make sure that, number one, we stay healthy as a family. With COVID, it's been, kind of bearing on, and restriction. There's been so many restrictions of what we can do, where we can go. And, you don't want to catch the virus. You want to make sure you get on the list to get the vaccine and all of that. And amongst all of that, we're just trying to keep our mental health the best that we can possibly keep it. The kids have been doing virtual schooling, so that's been kind of a little bit difficult for them. It kind of causes a little bit of depression because the social interaction that they would prefer to have has been absent. And so as a result of that, I've had to be their best friend. I've had to, do the things that, they would do with their buddies with them, be it playing video games, be it going outside, walking the dog, or, whatever I can do to help them, through their tough times. My wife as well. We've all been in the house together. Luckily, we got a little bit of space in here. So if I need to, I can come down here in my office and get a couple minutes to myself, or my wife can come down here. She needs a couple minutes away, just realistically, just trying to get through it all and make sure that my kids, more than anything, and my wife and I are able to keep a positive outlook on, where we're going and what we're doing. And no matter how tough or rough things may be or may get, that we do meditation, we do yoga, and we actually do these things as a family. So
really,
the boys, every now and then they're like, I'm good, Dad, or whatever. But it's just great that they want to participate and invest in their own focus. And we always tell them that, we're not always going to be there to hold their hands. So we try to prepare them the best that we can so that they can, when they get to our level, handle these adversities the same way that my wife and I approach them. And so we just trying to pass it on and just trying to stay positive, man. And, I work, of course, with COVID, my mindset business and my coaching business slowed down a little bit. So I've been delivering for a liquor distributor to make ends meet. The mortgage has got to be paid. So got to do what you got to do. And so I've been doing that. And I still do a little bit of coaching and mentoring online, but as well, the gym just finally started opening back up. They kind of let you have a little bit more contact now. So things are getting sort of back to normal. I mean, but I'm still masked up and, we still take the necessary precautions and keep my hands washed. And, I'm a clean brother anyway. So, I keep myself together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. I'm a bit of I was a germaphobe before germaphobes became popular. So, I would travel and it was a whole cleaning fest before I even entered a hotel. So I definitely understand that. One of the things you said, though, that was interesting, that you and the family meditate. And I'll tell you, I've been really trying to get into the whole meditation thing myself. But you know what? Every time I try to meditate, I just fall asleep. I don't know, like, am I over meditating or what's going on? How do you actually approach meditation, especially from a family standpoint? Because I realize everybody have to have their Zen, if you will, but how do you meditate as a family? Because I do know that meditation is important just to kind of let that brain cool down. So.
Well, I'll tell you what, was really awesome is that LeBron on the app Calm, there's a Calm app that you can download on your iPhone or your Android or whatever. And it was really awesome that LeBron was narrating. It gave the boys like, oh man, it's LeBron James, and, I'm a Lakers fan, as you can see in the background here. And you've known that for so many years.
Absolutely.
Rest in peace to the great Kobe Bryant. And all the other individuals that were lost in that tragic incident. But, how we approached it is just trying to relate to people that are, prominent individuals. And there's a lot of other people, Matthew McConaughey, a lot of other people do their own version of these podcasts. But this particular one, it kind of spoke to us. And he only has a like 5 or 6 segments or something like that. But that was a way to get the kids involved. And how we approached it is just, we told the boys, hey, you know, we gotta, as the tensions rise in the house, and the reality is that we're all going through, you know, getting tired of one another in this home, we got to do something to be able to calm our minds and help ourselves to, you know, breathe a little bit. So we first start out with taking a few deep breaths before we even start the meditation. We just take a few deep breaths and just relax ourselves. And we get in a little circle in the loft in our home up on the top floor, and we put the phone or whatever device that we're using to run the, you know, the motivation segment or the meditation segment up, and then we just relax. And as he starts to talk, we just basically close our eyes and, you know, just take it in. And it's really awesome because it gives you a chance to get away from all the distractions of the news and, you know, the tragic incidents that are seemingly happening every single minute you look up. You know, there's something going on. Rest in peace to the great DMX. You know, I mean, there's so many different things that, you know, these prominent individuals that you've looked up to that have really paved the way for us to be who we are. You know, we just, you know, we want to pay homage, but it's awesome because, you know, it also gives us the opportunity to grow as a family and to find a peace. I think more than anything in the midst of all the storm. Again, there's so many different things that are constantly coming at you from all different angles. And when COVID has put such a strain on the world like it has, you know, you have to make adjustments. But I think that I'll quote the great DMX by saying, he said once, to live is to suffer, but to survive is to find meaning in the suffering. So we've been concentrating on finding the meaning in this suffering that we've been experiencing so that we can emerge from it and be a better and stronger unit as a family. And I think that for us, everywhere we've lived, from when I first met my wife in Iowa, and she's all the way from Billings, Montana. So we met in Iowa, and then we moved to Kansas, and now we've moved to Wisconsin, where we've been for almost 8 years now, with job opportunities and different things. Well, you know, what happens is you go to those places and you don't have help. We don't have family here. We didn't have family in those other places. So we've always just been by ourselves. So we've always had to really practice the art of concentrating on being around one another and being able to deal with, you know, being with each other. So I think when COVID hit, we kind of had a little bit easier experience when it came to that, because it wasn't as hard for us because we were always around each other. We never had the privilege of just sending the boys over to grandma's or.
That's true. I know one of the things that you was talking about, Tyson, and you know, with the being able to meditate or needing to meditate because of all of the distractions. But let me ask you this: how do you know when the distractions around you actually distort your lens? How do you actually wrap your arms around that? And when I'm talking about lens, I know what you're talking about, but share with everybody what you mean when you talk about how distractions may distort your lens.
Well, you can get distracted easily by the massive amounts of information that are thrown at you every day from someone wanting you to believe their narrative. I think that what I like to call it is a game of narratives. People are constantly throwing what they think, you know, the world is telling you, what they think the news means, what they think this and that is. And you just have to be able to be strong enough to stay away from those things. And a lot of times, because of those distractions, your lens can get cloudy. You know, it's kind of like, I don't know, you see the older cars that have the headlight and the headlight is a little foggy, right? And you have to either get, you know, something to clean it off or whatever. But in life, you know, we have that fog, and we have to clear that out of the way. And the way to do that is to make up your mind to not let these things be a distraction in your life. I listened to a great friend of mine with a podcast, and it's called I Dare You, right? Right. And so in this podcast, it was this young gentleman was telling me to get away from these things, to concentrate on the things that I know are more important. And so that was kind of an enhancement to a vision that I already had of understanding that these things are just something that are getting in my way. And not only that, it helps me to have a recollection that I'm getting in my own way by allowing these things to have free rent on my brain.
Wow,
So
that's deep.
I can't, right? I can't allow these things to cloud my mind or my judgment, because if I'm not careful, then it distracts me and takes me off of my course. And in order for me to stay my course, I have to be focused. I have to sometimes be isolated. And you know what? That's not very easy, right? Because you're used to having your friends sometimes, you're used to having your family. And sometimes you got to isolate and go through what I believe is kind of like that coming through the atmosphere.
Right.
Right. And you're coming through the atmosphere, and the shuttle has that special metal, and it has to have it, right? Because if not, then you're disintegrated. But that's the test, right? You're coming through there and you're being tested. And once you get through there, then it's like, okay, I made it through the fire. It's kind of like that old, I think it's Earth, Wind, and Fire, or whoever that, through the fire, through the limits of the wall, for the chance to be with you, I'll gladly risk it all. So I'm risking myself, right? I'm making myself uncomfortable on purpose, going through that fire, going through that atmospheric, junction, if you would, to be able to get to where I know I need to be. And it's not easy, right? Because we get so comfortable and complacent in our state of, oh, I got my people around me, I got my circle or my clique, or the people that are my homies, my boys, like you and I, and we don't often take the chance to jump off the cliff and believe that we can fly on our own. We always seemingly have to have someone with us, sort of to validate us that you can do it, you can do it. But there's a message that having a telescopic vision gives us, that you can see what you need to see for yourself. You just have to be willing to do it. You have to be strong enough to do it. This might not
the way you put it when you say just making yourself uncomfortable intentionally. That's deep for me, because that means you're making a conscious effort to come outside of your comfort zone. I think we talked about that on a previous episode. We're talking about that elephant mentality, coming outside of that comfort zone. And that is definitely powerful when you talk about that. I'm gonna use that one, making yourself uncomfortable intentionally. That's powerful. Talk a little bit about, I know we had discussed previously just, about different narratives. What does that actually mean when you're talking about, just different narratives from your perspective?
Okay, well, specifically, I mean, you look at the news, they'll tell you that one party of the government is this way. They'll tell you that the other party is that way. And it'll sway your mentality and your thought process into thinking that, certain things are a certain way. But if you're not in those situations specifically, you can't always believe what you hear, number one.
That's true.
And half of only what you see, they say. So you have to be able to find, you got to fact check. You hear that a lot in the news. If somebody says something, you got to fact check it. And you want to, because if you end up following, I was talking to a relative the other day, and I told her, I said, you have to be careful that you don't follow the narratives that someone else creates, because you can end up blocking your blessings by following a narrative that somebody else tells you is true that may not be true. And then you'll spread that narrative, end up blocking not only your blessings, but you'll block whoever else you're sharing that with as well. So this game of narratives that people try to impose on you is something that comes from history, from them telling us that as African Americans, for some reason, we're like, a plague to this world, but this country's been built on our backs. So there's no way that we can be a plague. We are actually, a very formidable, culture. And I think that may impose fear and insecurities to someone who looks at us as though we're less than, but we're actually so much more. And that game of narratives, it kind of forces you, they want to force you to believe that you can only do so much. It's kind of like, here's this little teaspoon for you, while we have, barrels and barrels of all the spoils on this side. And you can easily get distracted by all of this information if you're not careful. And you have to open your mindset to allow, yourself to understand that these things are not necessarily true, right? They want you to believe that it's true, but you have to be strong enough, and you have to be educated enough, or educate yourself enough, to know the factual situation so that you don't get brainwashed and you don't get led astray by the information of people that you might see. And you know, the world lives on a materialistic basis mostly.
Yep,
Most
absolutely.
people see people, oh, he's got a Mercedes Benz, so
Yeah.
he must be something. So his word means, you know, it means everything. But that's not always necessarily true, because a lot of these people are paying a car note just like, you know, others are. And so what they have doesn't determine who they are. And a lot of what you see on the surface is not, you know, what's there anyway. It's more so what you don't see, right? It's that glacier metaphor, that most of what is, you know, you're composed of is what's underneath the surface, is what people don't always get to see, right? And so that's where I'm kind of going with that, you know,
it
just
makes sense,
make sure you
though.
don't get brainwashed.
Yeah, that makes sense when you break it down like that, those narratives. I've always looked at it like, you know, when you think about what's going on, everybody have become so tribal, as you said, you know, because of certain type of narratives, or, you know, but most of these negative narratives that are out there today, it's just based in fear. You know, they're based in fear. We're going to do this, or we're going to take your guns, or we're going to do this. It's all based in fear. But the point that you made, and I certainly want the audience to make sure that they understand and really drill down for yourselves on this particular notion, is that it's up to us to actually do our research, do our due diligence, follow up, do some studies. Don't just take everything for face value. Really, really work on what is best for me and my family, just based on what I need, or what I believe, or what my ideology is, because there are so many, as you say, narratives out there that the average person can just totally get confused in terms of what to do, or where to go, or how to make things happen, just based on so many narratives. So yeah, I certainly understand and appreciate, you know, how you've been able to navigate those different narratives, if you will. When you come into contact with different people, I mean, you know, what are you hearing in terms of some of these narratives or stories, or good or bad? What are you hearing from some of the people that you're interacting with as you coaching and mentoring people? What's out there that's hurting or helping people?
Well, I think the things that are hurting people are the distorted perceptions of individuals that want you to believe, again, what the school system should do, or what
Right.
the company should do, or you know, organizations have their own outlook on, and people have their own outlook on how they approach life, and that doesn't necessarily work for you. You know, you have to find out what you have to find your lens. You can't see the world from the perspective or point of view of someone else's lens. You have to, again, be strong enough to find your own lens, number one, which is right in front of you. It's the person you look at in the mirror every day, right? And concentrate on being better than that individual. It keeps you from competing with other people, right? And so, you know, the things you hear are the same old things. Oh, COVID is attacking the Black community, and you know, it's these things that they want you to believe that, you know, oh man, you know, all of a sudden, you know, it's always the Black people are there, and then you have, you have African Americans constantly getting killed all over the world by the police, right? So you're hearing those things, and then, you know, it's just seemingly a domino effect of nothing but negative information. And it's not necessarily always geared towards African Americans. I think overall it affects the world, because as you see a lot of these things occurring, you see a lot more support from all walks of life, right? Which is absolutely beautiful, because what we want to do is we want to see and embrace this ideal, anyway, of definitive diversity. It seems like we're sort of gravitating towards that, but every time it seems like we're really making progress, there'll be something else that comes out in the news or the social media or whatever that wants to deter and continue the division amongst the community. And so these are the things that you're hearing. You're hearing, you know, this and that about the president, and this and that about, you know, the governors, and, you know, this and that about people that are, you know, the mask mandates, and it's fake news, or it's you know, you just shouldn't wear a mask, it doesn't help you anyway. Well, if that's the case, then why do we see such a rise, you know, in cases, and, you know, and different things? So there's perception, then there's reality, right? And the perception of others is oftentimes pushed, and the reality is oftentimes stepped on. so that you never get to find out the truth.
Oppression.
Right. You only get to, and this is a constant thing, and it's something that you choose, right? It's something that you accept. If you accept it and then you take it in, then your mind accepts it, and then your body starts to react to it.
That's right. Yeah.
So depression, anger, resentment, all which are very corrosive, start to take your mind over. Right. And that's why in this segment, when we speak of telescopic vision, we're trying to, it's far seeing, and the definition of telescopic is capable of magnifying distant objects obtained by means of a telescope, right? Okay. So capable of viewing objects from a distance, far seeing, right. A telescopic eye. We have to adjust our lens, and it's kind of like, I have a telescope upstairs. I bought it for my boys, and at night, I mean, it's a powerful telescope. So I'm looking at the moon, and at first you just see like a vision of a white cloud, and then you have to make the adjustments, and then you get to see the actual moon, and it's almost like it's not even real. You see the craters, and you see all the different lines and things, and on the moon, and that's because you've adjusted your lens, you've adjusted yourself to be able to see it, right? To be able to see it. And it's the same way in life. All the distractions and everything else, we have to literally get the blur out of the way and get the distractions out of the way, and what other people think that we should be, and we need to really hone in to finding out who we are, right? What we are capable of. We are the question and the answer to the majority of our situations. That's true. We just have to be strong enough and willing enough to find what those questions are. Who am I? Right? Where are you going? Yeah. Do you know where you're going? Do you know what you want? What is your life? What is the purpose of your life? Right. Do you know what the purpose is? Have you even taken time to sit down and think about it? No, because you're so distracted by all these other things. You don't want to be able to find out how you can get on a consistent journey. The law of averages tells us that a consistent path brings opportunities, right? So you have to be able to get on your journey, stay on your journey, not be swayed because of peers or whatever they're doing. You really have to hone in, and it's like I said, it's an uncomfortable road. It's the road less traveled. It's a little bit rockier than the road that most people travel. And you might look at other people, and you might see them seemingly have a very smooth path, but it isn't necessarily what you think it is. Absolutely. Unless you're in those people's shoes. That's right? It's not what you think it is. So then after you find your journey and you find your path, then you're able to know who you are, where you're going, and then you find your vision, right? Then you find your vision. Then that's that vision that gives you that telescopic eye, that gives you the ability to see so much further beyond. They say, shoot for the moon and you'll land amongst the stars. Right. But we just went to Mars and dropped a rover and dropped a helicopter, and we're exploring, and it took 7 months to get there. That's right. I am an absolute space cadet, so I'm totally in that. But listen, here's the deal. Yeah, we've gone to the moon. We're all the way to Mars now. But there's so much more than just Mars and the moon. Right. The one of the satellites, I don't know if it's the Kepler or I can't remember which one it is, but it has gone into the furthest reaches of the galaxy and found so many different sister planets of the Earth. But we'll never be able to travel to those places because there's so many light years away from the Earth. We couldn't live long enough to travel. So what I'm saying to the audience today is that there's so much more for us to see versus what we're being brainwashed to see here on the Earth right now. Right. We need to have this telescopic vision and view that we can see more if we really want to open our eyes, clear our lens, and reach for that is so much further than what we see in front of us every day. We cannot be distracted.
That is incredible, man. I mean, I really like that telescopic vision. I'm actually thinking and taking notes as I'm listening to you, because at the root of all of this is just really being able to one, focus, to two, make some quality decisions, and then thirdly is to actually start by loving yourself. I mean, from your standpoint, what does it mean to really love yourself? What does that mean to you?
It's interesting because I think the education of loving yourself, as the great Whitney Houston once said, the greatest love of all is inside of me, right? How often do you hear people talking about the love of self? I don't think that conversation really hits the forum very much.
True. Yeah.
You constantly see the admiration of so many other figures. And while I respect and love so many of the other figures, like the great Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, all these people, I really tried to more so focus on how great I can be as well, right? So that's the thing that I think we miss a lot. We miss the greatness inside of ourselves. We miss that opportunity to love ourselves and grow and develop ourselves, our mindset. More than anything is to grow the mindset and become the strongest version of yourself. The only person that you actually need to compete with is that person you look at in the mirror every day, and focusing and honing in on being a better version than the person you were yesterday is the absolute goal. And it is the way and the segue to a telescopic vision, or a vision. And then you get to the telescopic vision. What do they say? There's levels to it, right? You don't just jump from, finding your journey to having a telescopic vision. It's taken me 20 plus years to get here.
Right. Got to go through that growth. It doesn't
just happen overnight.
Got to go through the growth.
Yeah, you got to. Well, I tell a lot of my clients, you have to go through to get through.
That's right.
Right. You're not going to just jump in to the pool and learn how to swim. You have to have an instructor. And being one that lifeguarded and taught people how to swim, there's steps, there's phases, to it. You got to paddle boat a little bit. You got to hold your hands on the wall. In life, you have to take the necessary steps in order to learn how to grow and develop. It's not just going to come overnight. You have to really work hard. There's a lot of hard work that's involved.
Yeah, the thing about those steps, though, most people want to avoid those steps. They want to kind of skip to the end, if you will. They want to kind of cheat the system, the process. That's not going to work. I mean, I tell people all the time, that's not going to work, because I hear this, people come to me and they'll talk about this, that, and thus. They would say, Sam, I would love to do what you do. But my question always is, would you want to do what I did? Because they don't want to go through the process. They see the end result a lot of time, the polished result. But at the end of the day, there is a process to the point that you're making that we just have to go through. There are no two ways about it. We have to do it. We have to mentally prepare ourselves for it. We have to physically prepare ourselves for it. But then we also have to do the research, do our due diligence, just to understand the bigger picture of what that means. Cleaning your lens, that telescopic vision. How does all of that play for us individually? So, I mean, that's a powerful concept, and that's powerful for me. But we'll start to wind down. But before we do so, there's a couple of tangible things that I certainly want you to expound upon, because we like to leave the audience with tools that they could walk away with and actually start to change their lives in a powerful way. Some things that they can tangibly do. What is your formula? What are some things that you may have been proven successful for you that actually helps make your dreams, or anybody's dreams, become a reality? What are some of those tangible things that you may be able to share?
Getting a hold of yourself.
Okay.
Studying emotional intelligence.
What do you mean by emotional intelligence? I'm sorry.
Emotional intelligence, meaning being able to control your reaction to things.
Okay. All right.
Your reaction to the news, your reaction to a peer's judgment, your reaction to family's judgment, your reaction to all the different things that can come your way. How you respond to those things, as they say, the attitude determines the altitude.
That's right.
So you have to be able to have that control of self. That's where it really starts. And a lot of times we get so distracted by all these other things that we can't get out of our own way. We're blocking our own ability to progress, because our minds are constantly thinking about all the things that people say that we can't do, all the things that people, the self, and there's also the self-imposed limitations. I couldn't possibly do that. I look at a guy like Sam Oram, and I couldn't possibly be what he is. Or I look at LeBron James, I couldn't possibly work as hard as he does. I couldn't possibly do, all the things that he does. Well, LeBron will tell you himself, it's the steps that, it took him, from the very beginning. And it was also an incredible will that he had. And it was also circumstances that a lot of people have, and everybody's different, right? Some people just simply don't have the resources. But there are those people that if they want it bad enough, they'll find the resources.
That's right. Absolutely.
They'll get it. They'll get every tool that they need that's necessary. And so speaking of those tools, we have to find the resources. And again, sometimes it may mean educating yourself on different fields. Nowadays, there's really no excuse. I mean, you can open up your laptop or your phone and you can go to Google and you can find out anything you want to do. For example, I built a basketball court in the driveway for my boys. And I was nervous about this basketball court.
Right.
I'd never done anything like this before. I'd never dug a hole, put concrete in there and all of that. But I'll tell you what, I was determined to do it. Number one, because I like to shoot hoops, as you know.
Yeah.
And more than anything, I wanted to do it for my family. I wanted my boys to have something to do because with COVID, we couldn't go to the parks. We couldn't go anywhere else. So we had to have something to do. So I ordered the court. I put it together. Really proud of myself for doing that. Never done anything like that before. Right. But the part that made me the most nervous was digging the hole and putting the pole in the hole and the entire court and making sure that the measurements were right, getting my leveler out and all the different things that, came down to it, getting the wood and setting the sandbags there to keep the pole in place so that the concrete can dry over the 48-hour period before you can actually fool with it. And I was so proud. I was so proud of myself. It was like, I really wanted to do this. And even though I had never done it before and I had, fear of screwing it up, I did it. And once I Googled and found the videos and seen how, different companies, construction companies, or even contractors built the hole, I just paid attention. I went to Menards, I got all the tools necessary, and I did the job. Same way in life. That's exactly what we got to do. There might be things that we fear, oh, success, I couldn't possibly do that. Yes, you can. Right. You just have to get out of your own way. You just have to make sure that this is what you want to do. For one, this is what you want to do. Right. And this is what your purpose is. Because you could find yourself trying to do something that's not meant for you, and you could be doing a lot of wasting of energy. You could be doing a lot of wasting of time and words, going and gravitating towards a place that you shouldn't be in the first place. Right. So that's a key, finding out, what you really want to do, and then gathering the tools, for myself. When I first moved to Atlanta and you see me working 2-3 jobs and you were telling me, this kid's taking over, I had ambition. I just wanted something more. I wanted to get out of the little situation that I was in Quincy, Illinois, and I wanted to move away, and I wanted to make something of myself. At 18 years of age, I had a vision that was somewhat ahead of my time, and I wanted it. I really wanted it bad. And whatever it took to get there, I was willing to do that. And so along the way, I was gathering the tools. But when God seen that I was on my path and wanting what I wanted, he started putting me around certain people when I knew that I was on my focus. And he had those people show me, like yourself, showing me the 9-dot theory. That's you remember when you remember when we were in the basement, you showed me the 9-dot theory on the whiteboard? Yeah. I will never forget. That changed my life and my perspective. It just was astronomical to my growth today. I still use that. I still show people that because once you get those 4 lines to cover all 9 of those dots, it's seemingly impossible when no one tells you how to do it. Right. But once you see, you go outside and get them all covered up, then it's like, oh, this is again, this barrier, right? It's almost a lid. That the world imposed on you, right? You have this lid on your head, and you don't know that you could take it off anytime. But it's been on there for so long, it's become a norm for you. So you continue to keep it on, and you continue to complain, and you continue to use excuses, and whatever, until you finally take that lid off, and then get the tools that you need to progress and to actually jump out on faith sometimes. And really step out and say, this is what I want to do. And just believe. Once you believe, and once you take that initial step, then things will start working out for you. The stars, if you would, from this telescopic vision point of view, will start to line up. They'll start to line up. And God will put you in the right places with the right people. But when he does, you have to make sure that you don't take advantage of that. You don't, you don't take it for granted.
Right.
You want to make sure that you make the right decisions, because you could get easily distracted. You start getting up in that level, and you see people making the money, and then you start seeing the realities, you start seeing the habits, you start seeing the different pitfalls, and you start to, oh man, and you might get involved, right? And you thinking that you can still maintain, but you're not those individuals, so you don't know their life and how they can control, those things. I mean, the vices, if you would, there could be drinking, it could be whatever it could be, right?
Yeah.
And
caught up all the time. Yeah.
You have to be able to stay focused on what is important for you. And as you do that, then again, you're around the right people, and they say that, it's who you know. It's all about who you know, but it's not just about who you know, it's who you know, and it's what they know about you. You will not make it unless that person knows that they can trust you to be a formidable asset to their organization or to whatever movement that they're trying to create. They want to make sure if the movement is going to be right, that you have the right kind of people in place to make it what it's supposed to be, right? Let's go all the way back to LCI. I mean, it was the same way then. When you're building your legs, when you're building your business on up to One Voice, you have to have the right kind of people in place. Stanley is a perfect example. Shout out to brother Stanley Ducetti. I mean, he's an intricate part of the organization, and he's always been around, but he was one that, you could trust to be by your side and help you grow. Not only you helping him, but you're helping each other. And then his judgment, your judgment, brings better individuals on board, so that they can all collectively, as a collective unit, help push this thing, as you would call it, to the highest level. And that's what it's about, bro. That's what it's all about, man.
No, that's powerful, man. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We've had so many conversations over the years, and that's why I think it's important, for us to continue to spread this message of empowerment, to spread this message of ideology, and understanding what distractions are and what they are not. But then to this particular topic, that telescopic vision. And I learned so much from you from that particular conversation. I know we talked a little bit prior to this podcast, but I really didn't even want to know what you were going to talk about, because I wanted to be exposed, just like everyone in the audience, in terms of your wisdom, your level of competency and what you're doing and how you've been able to empower other people. And I got to tell you, I've literally been blown away by what you have. I know you're a wealth of knowledge. I can feel it oozing through your pores, all of the information and excitement that you have to be able to share with people. And that really excites me, man. So I'm so super proud of you, what you're doing. Like you said, we met when you were what, 18, 19 years old, 18 years old in the dungeon. And, here you are now empowering people all over the world with messages. I'll let you get out of here on this question, but I think it's important because, again, we want to make sure that everybody is focused on what they can do to empower their lives. What could you give us in terms of what we need to do to, as you would put it, magnify our light, to make our light shine brighter, to get closer to whatever that telescopic vision is? What advice you would give us so we can tangibly walk away from this podcast today and get to work on empowering ourselves?
First of all, make up your mind. Make up your mind what you want.
Okay.
Don't be afraid. Don't let anyone dictate or determine what it is that you want to do with your life. Don't let your past hold your future hostage.
Right.
Don't let what has happened to you before control what is happening to you now and interrupt what can possibly happen to you in your future. We have to be able to concentrate and hone in and focus on getting your own lens to see what's best for you. Not what's best for somebody else, not what someone else thinks what's best for you, but what you know that you have prayed for, and you have, even if you don't pray, whatever you meditate on or whatever you concentrate on is best for you, you have to go for that. You have to simply go for it. And I think that, I think ultimately, it's an example, it's examples of other individuals. Pick up a book and read what the greats have done.
Right.
Study the notes and the different obstacles that these people have experienced, see what you shouldn't do, and then recognize what you're supposed to do.
That's right.
In order to make your dreams come true. You
Right.
can use the examples of the greats, you know, because they have not only the good examples, but they also have the bad ones as well.
Right.
Right. Without those bad examples, without those pitfalls, without those adversities, those challenges, we never are able to rise to the level of greatness. It doesn't come, like I said, it doesn't come easy. And you have to be willing to go through these different channels in order to get there. And so it all starts with, again, finding out where you're going.
Right.
Where are you going? Do you know where you want to go? And if you know where you want to go, make up your mind that you're not going to let anything get in the way. Don't listen to people talk to you about what you did 20 years ago or what you did even yesterday. You know, you have to get those things out of your mind. You have to have a forward mindset. I like to say a rear view perspective.
Right.
That rear view perspective is that when you look in the rear view and you're moving forward, everything that is behind you continues to move further behind you as you move forward. Right. You're not going backwards. You're going forward. Keep going forward. Don't let what's behind you, even if it was 5 minutes ago, somebody coming up road raging next to you in traffic. Don't react to it. Just keep your mind focused on where you're going. Because it's not just the road ragers, it's all kinds of different variables that this world is trying to impose on people that are distractions to your goals and your dreams. You have to block out all of the nonsense, all of the negativity, and everything that people are saying. And you have to be able to stop you have to stop your mind. You have to concentrate, you have that meditation state where you block out everything and you focus ultimately on what it is that you're really trying to do. You figure out what you're trying to do. And then once you do that, you enhance your lifestyle, right? You start to maybe get into a little bit of yoga. You might, start getting around a podcast, start listening to podcasts. You might start doing different things that you're not used to doing, but these things are the tools, again, that you need and are necessary in order to help you grow and go in that different direction. Watching TV, I love a good movie, don't get me wrong. And with COVID, that's pretty much, what we've been doing, right? That's the only thing you can do. But there's a rule in my house that every now and then that TV's got to turn off. That video game's got to turn off, and you got to turn all of that off so that your brain doesn't get warped. Because it will. Noise. It's unhealthy. It's absolutely unhealthy. Get rid of the noise. First and foremost, get rid of that noise, like you say, and find your peace. Find your peace, and then when you find your peace, know that there's gonna be chaos. There's gonna, in fact, once you decide that you really want it and you really want that peace, and there's gonna be a lot of channels that you're gonna have to go through in order to get it. Just don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid, because the challenges are what's going to get you to that next stage. The more adversity you have, you got to realize that the blessing is just right on the other side of that adversity. Right. And you just have to keep pressing. There was a picture that I seen one time, and these two gentlemen were in a cave, and on one side of the cave there was about 20 diamonds in the concrete, and these guys both had the little metal chips, and they were chipping away, and they were trying to find the diamonds. On the left side, there was two sides. There's the right side and the left side. On the left side, there was a gentleman, and he had his chip. He was chipping away. Well, he found his diamond. He found his diamond, right? So the guy on the right side, seeing that he found his diamond, he had 20 diamonds on his side, but he didn't want to keep chipping because he seen the other guy found his. He turns around and kills him with his chipper. Right. And take this diamond. But once he does that, then he ends up getting, I guess that he started chipping away on this same side. Right. What he didn't realize was there was a huge wall of water. So as soon as he chipped again, thought he was going to find another diamond, he ended up killing himself and drowned. Right. Yep. So you can't do what someone else is doing. You have to stay on your side and keep chipping away. If he would have been patient, we have to have that patience. We want it now. I get it. Some of us want to win the lottery. So it's make it so much easier. How many times have you heard that? Oh, right. If I win the lottery, then, but if you win the lottery, are you going to know what to do with the money though?
Right.
Are you going to know what to do with it? Right. Are you going to know how to invest it? Are you going to know to save the 80-20 rule? Right. Mm-hmm. If it's 20, if you're spending more than, you're making, and if you're not making anything, even if you had a few million, you're spending at some point, you're going to have nothing.
You're going to run out.
You haven't made a plan.
Out of that principle. Yeah.
If you haven't made a plan. So when you say, what are the things that you can tell us as far as how to make it? It's just like you told me years ago. You got to have a plan.
That's right.
It starts with the plan. First, you have the plan, right? And then you become a leader, mm-hmm. right? You become a leader of that plan. Then you organize, mm-hmm. right? It's planning, leading, organizing, and developing, right? That's the 4 functions of your life management. So you plan, you lead, you organize, and then you develop and you grow as an individual. But you can't skip the steps. Right. You got to stay the course. You can't get off track. You can't get distracted. Turn the TV off. Pick up a book. Do something different in order to get where you want to be. People want to live the good life. But like you said, when it comes down to doing the work, everybody wants to take a light vacation. And I don't want to do, that's
no
too
shortcuts.
much.
Yeah, there are no shortcuts.
I won't get any sleep. I won't, I want to go, I still want to go hang out at the bar or whatever. Right. It's like, no, you have to be willing to sacrifice. When I first met my wife, we had our first kid. Me, I've worked my tail off my whole life, whole life. And when I met her, I actually became a stay-at-home dad. Mm-hmm. And then when my second boy was born, I stayed home and took care of my boys all these years. And I'll tell you what, it played on my psyche.
Right.
It made me question my manhood. Am I doing the right thing? Years down the line, I realized it was the greatest thing that I could have ever done in my life was to stay home and support my wife like a man should.
That's right.
Yep. And take care of his kids like a man should. I didn't have my parents growing up, right? I was raised by my grandparents. You know that, right? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to be able to give my kids what I always longed for. And the only way that I could do that was to make good decisions, to do the right thing, right? To continue to empower myself to be the best man that I can be so that now I can have my boys be the greatest men that I could have never dreamed of being.
That's right.
That's what it's really all about.
Man, that is powerful. That's incredible. As a matter of fact, that's a perfect segue into something that I wanted to close out with and just share with the audience. In about 2 days, less than 48 hours from now, there's going to be an event called the Masters of Empowerment. And this is an event for men, but we're here to really talk about a lot of the things that Tyson just shared with you, especially what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to empower other people? What does it mean to stand up and take care of your family from a man's perspective? What do you need to do? Tyson is going to be one of 5 panelists. I'll be there as well, a couple other people, but we're going to be excited about that. So at the time of this recording, it's about 2 days away. That's going to be on April the 10th, April 17th, I should say. So you certainly want to be able to just look for Masters of Empowerment on Eventbrite, and you'll get a chance to ask us any questions that you may have directly from a male standpoint. But even beyond that, Tyson, hey, look, I know we could talk for the rest of the day because there's so much we have to share with the world. We absolutely have to do a follow-up episode, just so that we can continue this particular topic. But I do want to say that, again, I'm so proud of what you've done, what you have become, how you're empowering so many people around the world. It's interesting when you start seeing that eye of the tiger. We saw that eye of the tiger in you when you were 18 years old and, really bright-eyed and wanting to know what to do and how to do it and all of those things. And we knew that you would, at some point, not only be great for yourself and your family, but empower so many other people. And here we are. And I know just based on everything that you shared, your future is super bright. It is as bright as the craters on that moon that you talked about. And we could not be more happy and pleased with what you're doing, but also so thankful that you were able to just share from the heart some of the things that have empowered you and how those things can empower us as well. So before I close out, is there any last words that you want to share or anything you want the audience to know before we close out this episode?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for being my brother, for being my mentor, for being one of my greatest friends. I want to thank you for showing me that the sacrifices were the necessary thing that you needed to have in order to be successful, or you needed to apply to your life to be successful. So I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for everything you've taught me, because it's brought me to this level. And I have a lot of other people that I could thank, like Sam Garr, who you know very well,
Right.
like Floyd Majors, who was the reason why I came to Atlanta. Had it not been for Floyd Majors, I would have never met you in the first place. There's so many prominent individuals that have been in my corner, and their sacrifices of helping me to become the man that I am today has been the reason, you know, and the greatest success that I have it's come from the support of other people. You know, they say it takes a village, right? It takes a village. And, you know, you were a part of one of the leaders in that village, as well as many others that have helped me to get where I am. And to our audience, you know, it's about the sacrifice. It's about you willing to sacrifice, you know, the things that make you comfortable, you know, to put yourself in an uncomfortable place.
That's right.
To develop that telescopic vision. And I wish all of you the best. I want to say, you know, thank you all for tuning in. I want to also encourage you as well to show up at or come to or register for the empowerment event that's coming up on the April 17th. It's going to be powerful. You know, we're excited to be able to provide valuable insight, financially, economically, whatever's needed, because the world has been kind of in an unstable place. And I'm privileged and thankful to be able to help people get back on their feet, you know, including myself, because, you know, we're all out here working, trying to make a better life for ourselves. So we get better every day, and we got to keep working hard, and we got to keep pushing, you know, got to keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, man, let's do it. I'm so ready for it. I'm ready to continue to empower people. Thank you once again. Thank you to all of our listeners. Again, do your boy a favor. Like I always say, subscribe, share, download these podcasts. This information is not for us. It's not just for us to hoard the information, but it is to spread this information around the world. Share this information, share this podcast. And you certainly want to let everybody know that Mr. Tyson Rudd was on the air today, and he dropped some jewels that you do not want to miss. So like, subscribe, share, and download, support, and we really look forward to working with you. Thank you again, Tyson. Thank you to all of you who are our audience listeners. God bless each and every one of you, and we'll see you on the beaches of the world. Take care. Yeah.